Look at it, my goodness, just look at it, sitting there coquettishly unopened and daring you to imagine what legendary bobbins and whoozits lie inside. As the last few years in gaming have aptly demonstrated, we can't get enough of these things.
But what is it about loot boxes that holds such appeal for us? They're just containers of in-game items that might otherwise have been found in the olden days by looting a fallen enemy's corpse after all. Except they're not, are they?
When a game gives you a loot box and lets you open it, it's actually performing a psychological smorgasbord of subtle tricks that play to your baser instincts and excite your brain's reward centre. Games have become David Blaine, in other words.
Let's forge a path through the dodgy decks of playing cards and rabbits in hats and get to the psychological imperative behind opening those delicious, delicious loot boxes.
When we open a loot box, we're doing so hoping that it'll contain the epic titanium nose armour we've been after for ages. Our reward, in other words. But we also know we might not get it. And having rewards delivered unpredictably like this is particularly exciting to our brain's dopamine system.
Dopamine's generally regarded as the reward chemical. You hear about it in conjunction with food, sex, social media likes, and addictive habits. But our brains don't just keep on pumping out dopamine indefinitely whenever we engage in those activities. Instead, dopamine production actually spikes when the reward we want comes unexpectedly.
So if you knew that every loot box was going to contain at least one rare or valuable item, you wouldn't produce as much dopamine when you open them. You'd get used to the idea that the things you want are on tap, and as a result, you'd chill out about the whole thing. It's the uncertainty itself that proves so stimulating. In academic circles, this phenomenon is known as variable rate reinforcement.
We've established that we enjoy a reward more when it's being delivered unpredictably, which incidentally is why I pay that little bit extra for Amazon's all-new K9 courier option. The interesting thing really though is that we also subconsciously kid ourselves into believing there's less unpredictability to it.
Because every time we open a loot box and it doesn't contain the thing we wanted, we tell ourselves that the odds just increased of it appearing in the next box, based on, you know, nothing at all.
Ever hear of the gambler's fallacy? Well, that's the name given to the principle that our very silly, pathetic human brains start to believe the odds of a particular outcome change based on what has happened before it. We've actually talked about that on the channel before. If you're at the roulette table betting on red or black and the ball landed in black the last 5 times, which colour do you bet on this time? Well, science says you'll probably bet on red because it's due. In reality, of course, it's still a 50-50 outcome, but we're swayed by what we expect to happen instead of the raw statistics.
Bringing that back to loot boxes, the longer we go without getting a rare or valuable item in a loot box, the more we come to expect that it's right around the corner. It's a driving principle behind all kinds of gambling, hence the name. And whether you consider loot boxes to be gambling or not, your inner card shark is busy crunching frankly wrong-headed numbers every time you open one.
So we like getting cool stuff by surprise, and we also like telling ourselves it wasn't so much of a surprise when it actually happens. Epic loot? No biggie. There's another logical fallacy other than that of the gambler though, telling us that success is easier to predict and even to create. Let's call it the deal or no deal principle, because there isn't actually a fancy academic name for this one.
Right, you're gaming away and you unlock a loot box. You go to open it and hang on, what's this? 3 of them to choose between? By giving you an apparent choice in this game of luck, the game nurtures the entirely unfounded idea that you can use your guile and wit to turn the odds in your favour. Like the oddly close-knit, slightly culty contestants on Deal or No Deal who seem to believe that they can beat the banker, while playing a game of luck in which they stand behind a randomly selected box.
Of course, in all likelihood, the items you received would have been exactly the same no matter which box you chose. But by introducing the idea that your skill and perception might swing the odds in your favour by presenting multiple loot boxes, the game makes you more engaged with the activity. Now, some games even take it further than that.
Here's Forza Horizon 3 giving you some treats for levelling up. You press a button, you get a reward. Classic loot box. Except that there are no boxes, and instead you're watching a giant wheel of fortune tantalise you with its many available prizes. The masterstroke of this design is that it creates near misses when the wheel stops just one space shy of a huge cash prize or a rare car. And look, here's CSGO at it too, placing weapons of varying wonderfulness on a spinny wheel. Come on, blue. Great. Next time, come on, You know what, forget it. Forget it. This is a powerful device. Maybe your next spin, if you time it just right, you'll get it. No. What about next time? Yeah. But what about next time? It's all an illusion, of course, but what a powerful one.
So far, we've focused on the contents of loot boxes, and justifiably so, but let's not ignore the essential truth that regardless of what's inside, the act of popping open a shiny closed thing is intrinsically very satisfying. What are you looking at me like that for? It is.
In many cases, developers have dedicated artists, designers, and animators whose job it is to make everything from loot drop to opening a thoroughly beautiful experience. And you don't need a psychology doctorate and a lifetime of crippling student debt to know that we find tension and release irresistible wherever we see it. You can hear it in every piece of music since early man first dropped rocks onto other rocks in a particularly melodic manner. It's there in every movie trailer when someone utters a one-liner before the explosion. And it's definitely there in Overwatch's firework display of cosmetic items. Just look at this! Hearthstone, Gwent, and other card games pay particular care to this too, since it's essentially the entire point of the game. It's no accident that those bursts of cards are so enjoyable to watch. Cool.
How could anyone resist so many seductions bound together in one unboxing? Suddenly, I don't feel so hard on myself for selling a family member to finance my CSGO skins habit. It's just basic psychology. Sweet exoneration. But there is an area of the brain which loot boxes tickle that we've yet to discuss, and it's all about collection.
Why do we collect things? As psychologists have determined over the years, for all kinds of reasons. Freud thought that we accumulate things as adults to make up for all the lost poop we just gave away as infants. Those in the psychoanalysis camp also believe we collect material possessions in later life to compensate for a lack of love and affection during childhood. None of that joins the dots readily to the jamboree of character customization and firepower that comes in most video game loot boxes though. Perhaps we need to look broader to do that. Collections, whether virtual or physical, are extensions of ourselves. They're a manifestation of our interests that live on after we do, and the act of collecting them makes us likely to meet like-minded folks. So maybe, sick bags at the ready, we love loot boxes simply because we love people.
Or maybe it's all the devilish psychological tricks. You decide. Thanks for taking a chance on us and watching this video. Why not subscribe to the channel to avoid those agonising near misses on our latest videos, and we promise they'll always be legendary. What's that? Oh, okay. Apparently we can't promise that. But at least we'll never palm you off with horse armour.